Hi guys, welcome to my new video. In this one I'll be looking at some grammar that's important to get a good score in IELTS and just grammar that's important to improve your English. In my previous video series we looked at how to structure an essay, but I'm finding a lot of people they need structure for a sentence. It's no good to be able to structure an essay if you can't structure a sentence. So let's learn the basics of how to write good sentences now. In this video, when I talk about grammar, I'm going to be fairly simplistic with my language. If you really want to get the technical terms for all your grammar, I recommend getting the book English Grammar in Use by Raymond Murphy. That's what most teachers use in their classrooms these days. Let's look now at clauses. Think of clauses as a part of a sentence that has a subject and a verb. Now, making a larger sentence is very simple. You just start combining these subjects and verbs. For example, here we have subject plus verb, then we use a connecting word, then we go into subject plus verb again. Let's look at some different kinds of connecting words and look at the rules for their use as well. So firstly, what we have is coordinating conjunctions. Now, you might know what these coordinating conjunctions are. There's several of them, but there's three that are the most common that we use. They are and, but, and so. There are also other conjunctions, and these are known as subordinate conjunctions. Do you know any subordinate conjunctions? I'll start you off. We have because. What are some other ones? Although. While. You will have seen these in my video series, and there's a heap of them, maybe another 50. Some of them have more than one word, such as even though. Now, another kind of connecting word we have is relative pronouns. So, you guys should probably know these by now. They are, for example, that, who, which, and there are several others, of course. Where, when, these sorts of words. So here we go, the basics of what we need for sentences. Let's look at some example sentences to help us understand this a bit better. I've got some example sentences here that show how to use these connecting words. I've used the theme automation and robotics coming for our jobs. Let's look now at the first sentence. It says, robots are coming for our jobs, so we need to prepare. First thing we need to do is identify what the subject is. So remember, we're going subject, verb, connecting word, subject, verb. Subject is, of course, robots. Then we have our verb. The verb is are coming, it's present continuous. For our jobs, I'll look at that part later. Moving on, where is our connecting word? Well, no prizes if you can guess it, alright? So, there's our connecting word. Now, where's my next subject and verb? Well, of course, we is my subject, verb, need. And so at this point I go, good, I've got all the pieces. Now, I have a question for you. Do I need to put a comma in this sentence? Do I need a comma before so? Well, the answer is here. Coordinating conjunctions are and, but, and so. These conjunctions require a comma if they are before another subject and verb. And sometimes isn't, but, and so always are. So, yes, we will. Robots are coming for our jobs, comma, because it's a coordinating conjunction, so we need to prepare. Good, let's go on now to our second sentence. It says, society needs to prepare for change because robots are coming for our jobs. Once again, let's analyze it a little bit. What's the subject? In this case, society. What's the verb? Needs. Moving on, to prepare for change. What's our connecting word? Well, I've taken it from over here. It's a subordinating conjunction. It's because. Subject, robots, verb are coming. Now, because, does it need a comma before it? That's our question. The answer is no. If you have a subordinating conjunction and it's in the middle of your sentence, if the sentence has the structure subject, verb, subordinating conjunction, subject, verb, you won't need a comma. So this is perfect the way it is. Moving right on to the last one. People need to consider the fact that they may lose their jobs. First, let's identify the subject and the verb. Subject is people. The verb is need. We move on. What's the connecting word? Well, in this case, we've used a relative pronoun for a connecting word. And the relative pronoun is that. Subject, they, verb, may lose. Question, do we need a comma before that? Answer, no. With relative pronouns, except for non-defining relative clauses, which I will not explain today, you don't need a comma before a relative pronoun. So now it should be fairly clear to you how to structure a basic sentence using subject, verb, connecting word, subject, verb. Let's look at some different sentence structures now. Here is another common structure. It's connecting word, subject plus verb, comma, subject plus verb. This structure often begins with a subordinating conjunction. Let's have a look at the first example sentence. If automation creates unemployment, governments will have to spend more money on social security. Let's break down the sentence to see what we've got. Firstly, we need to identify our subject. What's the subject? It's not if, it's automation. Then, as always, we need to find the verb, and that is creates. If automation creates unemployment, okay, now we have a new subject verb, don't we? We have governments as a subject, and the verb will have. So the question becomes, where's my connecting word? Well, of course, it's at the beginning. It's a subordinating conjunction. It comes here. Now, what this means is that I've got a connecting word between unemployment and governments. It's invisible. It's there, but it's not. It's at the beginning. So what I need to do to show that I do have a connecting word is put in a comma. So finally we have, if automation creates unemployment, comma, governments will have to spend more money on social security. There you have this structure. Let's look now at the second example sentence. This is a common structure I use for introductions and conclusions. You will have seen that already if you look at video 1 in my essay writing series. Here we go. Although automation will have negative effects for many, what's the subject in this clause? Of course it is automation. And the verb is will plus base verb have. Negative effects for many. Notice the comma here. Why have I got a comma? Because I've got a connecting word at the start. I'm just letting you know I've got a connecting word here. So there's a comma. I believe, subject, verb. Research in this field needs to continue. What's going on here? Do I have another verb in this sentence? Well, yes I do. I've got needs. So I've got a subject with that, I guess, and that is research. The question is, where's my connecting word? Do you know the answer to this? Well, it's actually here. It's a relative pronoun that. We have research in the field. Before that, I believe that research in this field needs to continue. You've actually got a connecting word there, and it's that but sometimes that is optional. So there we go. Subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, verb. And we have a connector between each clause. One last structure we should look at is the subject, connecting word, subject, verb, verb structure. It's commonly used with relative pronouns. Let's go to our example sentence. Governments which prepare for increased automation will be in a better position to help their citizens. Let's look now for the subject, which is governments. Now we have a word that is a connecting word, which, a relative pronoun. Are governments and which the same thing? Yes, which is referring to governments directly. So we know that this is both a connecting word and a subject. So governments which prepare is my verb for increased automation will be. Here's another verb, and that one goes with my government subject. Will be in a better position to help their citizens. So very simply, subject, connecting word, subject, verb, and verb to conclude. Really standard with relative clauses. So now let's put everything we've learned together and attack this final sentence. It says many experts. Alright, let's get the subject started. Experts. Subject. Who? Who is a connecting word. It's a relative pronoun. And who is referring directly to experts. So it is also a subject. Specialize. That's the verb for who. In robotics and automation are predicting. That's a present continuous. Now, that's the verb for experts. So read it like this. It's very simple. Many experts are predicting increased inequality. This relative clause can be taken out and the sentence should still make sense. Experts are predicting increased inequality because there's our subordinating conjunction. Unemployment, that's a noun, that's a subject. Will rise, there's our verb. So here we have three clauses, two connecting words, which is exactly what we should have. We've got a relative clause and a subordinating clause. This means if you have a subordinating clause, by the way, it's technically a complex sentence. Even if it's simple, it is still considered a complex sentence. So you might think, hey, that's a fairly easy sentence to write. This is complex. This gets you a good score for grammar in IELTS. You don't need to be any fancier than what I've got here. Before we continue, I want to clear up a common problem. And the problem is people misidentifying what the subject is of a sentence. There's a structure in English called a prepositional phrase, and it's an important thing to understand. A prepositional phrase consists of a preposition plus possibly adjectives, maybe articles, plus a noun. Basically think of it as it goes through from preposition till noun. Now, this structure, anything in this prepositional phrase cannot be the subject of your sentence. Let's have a look now at an example from the previous sentence we saw earlier. It says, many experts who specialize in robotics. Let's go through again, we'll go through the subject verb thing again. So experts, subject, who, connecting word and subject, specialize, verb. Now look what we've got. We've got this little word in. It's a preposition. And I want to go from preposition till the next noun. So preposition, noun. Look, these two nouns are connected by and. So I'll put this little part around here. So I know this is in robotics and automation. This is a prepositional phrase. I'll move along to continue my structure identifying. Are predicting. Increased equality among. This also is a preposition. So we want to go through to the next noun now. So among uneducated, well, that's an adjective. People So people's our next noun. Moving on, we have the word over. That's also a preposition. And it goes on to the next noun. Over the next few, all describing decades. Nothing in these parentheses can be your subject, as I stated earlier. So let's have a look now at some reasons why this can be important. Let's identify some common mistakes based on what we've learned so far. Here's a sentence. Actually, both of these sentences have something wrong with them. First one. People should prepare for automation in the automotive industry. For example, trucks and taxis which will soon be driven by AIs. What's wrong with this sentence? I'll give you a second to have a look, see if you can figure it out. Well, let's go through and see what we've got. We've got a subject, people. We've got a verb, should prepare. We've got a prepositional phrase, for automation, for through to noun. What have we got here? Another preposition, go through to noun, in the automotive adjective industry. So I've got my subject verb, all good. Now I've got a new sentence, for example. This is not a connecting word in this case. Trucks and taxis. So, first nouns of my sentence, of my new sentence. They are the subject, correct? Trucks and taxis. Which. Now, which is a relative pronoun, is it not? Yes, it is. Now, which is referring to trucks and taxis. So, it's also the subject of the next clause. Now we have our verb for which. Will be driven. That's a passive, by the way. By AIs. By a preposition. AI through to noun. There's another prepositional phrase. So what's the problem? Well, what do you think? Problem's right here. We have a subject. We have no verb for it. It's all alone. For example, trucks and taxis, which will soon be driven by AIs. What trucks and taxis? What you could do, perhaps, is just put a comma here, attach, for example, to the previous sentence, and then you wouldn't really be breaking any rules. So that's a common mistake you need to be careful of. A second common mistake is this one. In the future will be inequality. Well, what's wrong? Now that you understand prepositional phrases, you can probably see immediately. We have a preposition, in, goes through to noun, future. We have a verb, will be. We have no subject. So remember, future is not a subject because you had the word in. So let's change that and make it correct. We could drop the preposition. So instead of in, we can just say the. And maybe we can say the future. The future now becomes my subject. And I'll say we'll have inequality. So I've easily fixed that problem just by dropping the preposition. Okay, hopefully that makes things a lot easier now regarding clauses. There are some other important aspects of grammar though that we also need to cover if you want to get a good score in IELTS. So let's check out that next. I hope you're enjoying this grammar series so far. Remember, it's just to accompany and to help the structural videos I've already made. So if you want to write a good sentence, these are the videos you need. This one. If you want to write a good essay, you're going to need all the videos that I've done. You can find those on my website at http://passyourilts.net. So just type in passyourilts.net and you'll find my website, and that's where all my videos are. Let's move on now to some different aspects of grammar.